hero.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Welcome everybody back to Around the UFL, and boy, it looks a little bit different today, and we're gonna have to roll with the punches. Look, this is the spring football scene. You'll never know what to expect, and we had both of our hosts, Zach Hellman and the ref, drop before tonight's episode. So here we are, James Larson hosting tonight Around the UFL, and we've got a really small panel. We got Jake from UFL Shadow and Nick Thorne, the roster boy, as he goes by. Started off with Nick. How you doing today?
Roster boy? Okay. Yeah, I think we just really needed to, this is a serious show and we need to start acting like it. So no bits. We had to, anyone who's an unserious person, we had to cut them out. So, only the most serious people here tonight. And so that, I don't have
no smiling today.
Yeah,
no jokes.
No smiles.
It'll be very, very serious, straight to the point, obviously, and we won't be pulling up the YouTube comments either, because we don't want to laugh. So that's the plan. Jake.
But the Roughnecks did win. I will say that real
Oh,
quick.
get out of here, Ref.
It lasted exactly 4 minutes.
So, for a little bit, actually, Jake, go ahead. I just cut you off. Unbelievable.
No, you're
this
good.
is why I don't host, guys.
No, I could be better. Could definitely be better. Saturday didn't quite go as hoped. It did go as, albeit as I expected, but not as I had hoped. So, 2 weeks to see if that changes anything. But otherwise, feeling pretty good. Obviously, it looks like Perkins is going to be back active, and we got Javin White back. So, optimistic. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all that pans out this week heading into the next. But just so everybody knows, Ref is okay. There's power outage down there in Houston right now, hence why he's not able to join. And Zach, he's on a plane somewhere in the sky right now. I don't know where. So safe travels to you, Zach, and we miss having you on the show. But guys, quite a bit to talk about. I know we're kind of heading down.
No Ducky mention.
No,
okay, sure.
Who knows? He might make an appearance later on tonight. We'll see. But unfortunately, Ref and Zach won't be able to join us per usual. Heading into Week 10, we've had some interesting Week 9 action, had some close games, had a couple of blowouts as well. Nick, I'll start with you. What were some of your overall thoughts from this past week of action?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. not much. You're starting to see, because everything pretty much got clinched more or less last week, teams are kind of starting to let the foot off the gas, some more than others. But this weekend in general, like, I think there's like particular players, like you can certainly point to, hey, Jamar looks for real. And now it's, that's going to be a big question mark about, okay, is it going to be Jamar's team the rest of the way? They've got quarterbacks getting healthy now. You have individual players. I'm going to shout out Cornell Powell as one that's like, really rocketed up 2 touchdowns this weekend.
Invest in his stock. It's going up.
Yes, for sure. And obviously Houston as a whole getting a win there is great. But like my power rankings, I don't think changed. Maybe I swapped Houston and Arlington. I don't even remember. I think it might have been the same. But like in general, I feel like there's no, like, obviously it's like good to have another week game tape, but wide scale, I don't think there's as many like, oh, this team suddenly is like this, because you look down the board, it's like, okay, St. Louis, blew out a San Antonio team with their backups, so like, okay, whatever. Birmingham, Michigan, now that's a game that like there is some takeaways from, but without Bryce Perkins, it's it won't be exactly the same team when we see them in a week from now. And then DC completely let their foot off the gas against Houston, obviously with playing their backups, but also just in general, the effort was non-existent in the second half. The tackling was poor, and so all these teams,
that's been the last back half of the season with your tackling, not just so much the second half of this game on Sunday, though.
I definitely agree. I think it was another level of like, okay, they're just not trying. But like, yes, especially Michigan. I think Michigan even was an outlier in that respect, where that game, because Perkins just did whatever he wanted that day. It hasn't been great, and certainly the defense is lapsed. One thing, if you're going to be optimistic to point at, is, hey, our safeties are finally getting healthy again. Sam Kidd started to play this week. Taylor Hawkins did not, but we'll see. I'm guessing he'll probably start getting worked back in. We've started, guys we added weeks ago that were, training camp cuts at safety the last couple weeks. But in general, yes, like the tackling has been very poor. I think our linebackers especially, it's been like a real issue. Momo Sanago last year was one of my favorite players for DC, and this year it just feels like hasn't been able to repeat his success. So yeah, like that is definitely the concern right now for DC. All the teams have like something like that. I mean, I think Michigan, it's the defense as well. And now you guys are starting to get healthy again. So we'll see if, I think Breland Speaks is obviously the big piece there. We'll see if you can get him fully healthy. Javin White getting back in the fray. I kind of doubt they're going to play him this week, but, all 4 of these teams still have
I think
concerns.
White will play, only because
like they did with
you want to
Speaks
get
last
him
week.
some reps, in my opinion, before the playoffs.
Okay.
If anything, maybe get several snaps in there, maybe 10 to 12 on defense. If you want special teams, get him accustomed back. Nick, to your point, look, I know you talk about the tackling. DC right now is second in the league in missed tackles. So I don't think that that's an issue that was just this week. I mean, I remember week 6 we were talking about it with Michigan. I mean, that was one of the major things for them, is they literally could not tackle Bryce Perkins or any of those Panthers players. And the only team worse right now is Memphis, who's been atrocious all year. They've got 98 missed tackles. DC's in second with 82, and then the rest of the teams are all in the 70s. So, I mean, it's not as glaring an issue as a team like the Showboats, but, I mean, Memphis has been kind of Memphis this year across the board with just messes on all sides. DC's 7-2. They got to be 6-3. They got to be better than that.
Yeah. I also will say it is kind of funny that our backups were a yard away from a 15-point fourth quarter comeback. I'm not going to put any stock into that at all.
This is why people have to watch the UFL. It's like, it's week 9. It's a meaningless game. The guys are just out there having fun. But we had like one of the craziest endings of the year, but also like could have had potential to be even more wild had Chris Rowland not been tackled a yard short of the end zone on that 3-point conversion. But Houston, what the hell are we doing? Like, you get down inside the 10, and we're right around the 10-yard line. You kick a field goal, put the game away, and Jalen McClendon's running an RPO option where he can run the ball and loses the football. I think it was Sam Kidd who's back in action, and he knocked that out and actually recovered it in the end zone. which is cool to see on his end. I love Sam Kidd. I think he's one of the better defensive players on the team, and hopefully we see him continue to trend upwards towards the postseason. But that was insane. And then to see Mike DeLello take him all the way back down the field, score a touchdown as time expires. Cornell Powell getting in the end zone again. Nick, you had to at least be somewhat excited to see that happen.
Yeah, I think Mike DeLeo is definitely the most interesting piece there because he was a complete unknown. He was someone who didn't even play a ton in college and didn't play outside of like one drive, I think, this year. And so getting extended, getting a full half of him playing is something that I was very intrigued by. He's a younger quarterback. He's never been in the NFL. So there's just like not really much to say about him up to this point. And I think he played admirably. Certainly, I think DC has one of the better surrounding casts, and you saw that. Although in saying that, they were starting a quarterback in the slot who did get a catch. So that, a little bit of like a, hey, we're down guys. We're just going to, get him some reps there. That was kind of interesting. Curious if Spencer Sanders is going to do some more of that in the future. But overall,
I asked Coach Harris about that after the game, and he said that Spencer's been taking reps at wide receiver throughout pretty much the whole season. So they just figured, why not throw him in there? He's been practicing at wide receiver, so give him a rep. And that was one of the most random things I've seen in spring football. Your QB3 out there running routes, catching passes. I don't know if we've seen quarterbacks actually run routes since Alex McGough did in 2022 for the Stallions.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of I didn't know that to this point. That's an interesting roster strategy because you have 3 quarterbacks there. You're guaranteed 3 quarterbacks. And so having a guy who can do that, I remember DC like years ago having Eric Dungy, their QB3, on kickoffs, and like he'd be making tackles on kickoffs, and so having that QB3 that's like can be utilized in some other respects too is interesting. But getting back to DeLeo, I think he showed some good things. I'm still not like I think some people might overreact to half a football. I think he's firmly like, okay, this is a quality backup that can give you some good play. Let's say, heaven forbid Teamo gets hurt in the playoffs. He's not going to be a non-starter for you. I do want to see a little bit more before I'm, crowning him or anything, or, we're talking expansion, is he going to be a starter for whatever, Columbus Bulldogs? Like, I think that's a little bit going too far for the moment, but I think at minimum, he guaranteed himself an opportunity in camp next year by playing as well as he did in the second half.
Jake, I don't know if it's possible, but can you pull up the YouTube comments? Because we, guys, again, look, there's no filters. There's always transparency on around the UFL. So because Ref isn't here, because Zach isn't here, who are usually the hosts, I don't have the option to pull up the comments and actually see them. So considering this show is going to be a bit unfiltered and wonky anyway, we might as well throw these up on the side and keep an eye on them, because why not? They'll be entertaining.
I will say immediately, talking about Alan Bowman, I think he was kind of one of the highlights of the weekend because he might have a future in broadcasting. That was, we've seen the like QB2 or QB3 do the like sideline interview talking through plays. I don't think anyone was more entertaining at that this whole season than Alan Bowman. A lot of guys kind of feel like, it's just like, they're just going through the motions on that, but he was like actually excited, and the fact that like there was some plays he didn't know because he'd only been there for a couple of days. I think he's someone that who knows if he is just a guy who's in for injuries, but I think he's someone especially with how storied or how long his college career is. He's a known name in the college space. He's someone I think could be the next Jake Butt or whatever on a sideline, doing that sort of thing.
I completely agree. I thought that was one of the funniest bits of the year so far. As you said, he's a little bit better than Anthony Brown on the sidelines, that's for sure. I don't know if you guys remember Brown a few Roughnecks games ago, but he even admitted on air, he's like, I'm not really good at these sorts of things. And I was like, man, he took the words right out of my mouth, because I was thinking the exact same thing. I saw David Comer in there at some point asking, when's the last time Ref has missed an episode after the Roughnecks won? but also their Roughnecks have only won a couple games, so it's not it's not that crazy of a statistic to look at. Oh goodness, Jake, we gotta at least talk about it. Some Michigan, Birmingham. Definitely some takeaways from that one. I think it's pretty clear that the Panthers secondary is banged up. There's been lots of missed assignments, and talking to Mike Nolan, it's kind of absurd because you look at the first down and second down defense, and it was tremendous. They were stuffing the run. Yep. They were keeping Birmingham in long third down situations, but 11 to 13 on third downs. That's probably a spring football record if we had to go back and look, at least with that many attempts on third down. So many of them coming from 9, 10, then 20, 24, 26 yards. I mean, you couldn't buy a stop.
No, it was nice seeing them getting into third and long, but yeah, after a couple of those long conversions, it just was like, all right, well, cool. It's 3rd and 12, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 24. Well, they're going to convert, and it just I think even Jace said it, is that you could tell by how depleted the Michigan defenses in the second and third levels that there was miscommunications and just people being out of position that really hurt them. And with not looking the greatest of outlook, with we have White coming back, but outside of that, it doesn't really look like the secondary is going to get any stronger. So Bauer and Nolan are going to have to figure something out there. But yeah, it just was brutal all game long. They just kept just hitting those third down conversions, and kind of took the wind out of the sails out of the first couple downs, like you said, got them, stopping them well on first and second, and was all for naught for most of the game.
Yeah, the one guy that kind of stuck out to me, poor performance, was Kenai Lovely, because he's coming off a game where he played pretty well against Houston, had a pick six. I think this game, at least according to PFF, he gives up over 130 yards, gave up, in my opinion, 2 touchdowns. I think he was accredited 1 on PFF, but he gave up the Deion Kane 50-50 ball, and then later on, when Birmingham reclaimed the lead, he was the guy in coverage originally on Kane, who broke free and then kind of barrels over Kainakua into the end zone. That was just, it's strange because the strength and the backbone of this Michigan team the last couple of years has been their defense, right? It's always been this defensive unit that's kept them in games and kept them close and kept them in striking range. Now they have the offense. I mean, this offensive line is, in my opinion, probably the best unit in the league. Them or St. Louis, you could make the argument for. DC's played really well too, but I think consistency-wise and especially running the football, no one's been more consistent than Michigan. They've been doing it week in and week out. But you have that paired up with Bryce Perkins or Danny Etling, who's obviously played well this season in his own regard, stepping in for Bryce Perkins. It's kind of crazy to see how much this defense has kind of collapsed, especially these last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, injuries.
Yeah. TJ's here. James.
I love you guys cut each other off and.
Well, I mean, we got
leave me with a really awkward intro for our guest, TJ. Jake, you want to take the comments off so we can make it a little bit bigger so people can can see TJ for at least a little bit while he's here. TJ, I know it's been a long time.
I apologize.
No, you're good, man. You're right on time. I appreciate you joining us today. How's it going, man?
Fantastic. Just a good day of game planning. Getting ready for the Birmingham Stallions. Always a pleasure playing them.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining the show. It's been a long time in the making. I know we've gone back and forth on it for a while. It's been an interesting season for you guys in Memphis, to say the least. Lots of ups and downs. Obviously, a couple of overtime wins and then several tough losses on the road and at home. What's kind of been your assessment so far this year in Memphis and just where you guys are at?
Yeah, and every season is not about one individual. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, it's been a lot of different situations and all that, and obviously with the team and everything. But I think the best thing is that we've all responded to no matter the situation. It has been as players, as coaches, and we've collaborated together. And I think that's the big reason for our overtime wins that we've had this year and having that success in overtime. But we've been in every game. There's just a few little things here and there that we have to continue to work on.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the story of the season, which we've seen in Memphis, where you're so close, but also yet so far, as the saying goes, and some of these phases where, week 2 against DC, you're right there knocking on the door, just can't close things out. Same thing in Houston, week 3. Michigan loss was pretty rough, and the next week you finally get a win against Birmingham. From your perspective, with some of these coaching changes, right? We've seen Jim Turner as a Week 1 head coach. You're in there helping calling plays Week 1. Ken Whisenhunt comes back for 2 weeks, then he leaves. Jim Turner's back as head coach. Noel Mazzoni takes over, so we see what's that whirlwind been like for you, just trying to manage and function through all of that.
Yeah, and I think that's just harping on what I said in the beginning. A season is never about one person; it's about a team, and the collaboration between our players and everyone adjusting on the fly to the different situations and all that. I mean, I obviously I got the opportunity to call plays in Week 1, which was a great opportunity for myself, and I only hope that on the staffs that I've been on, I've shown versatility in that regard. That I've been capable of doing a lot of different things, and I think that has kind of echoed into our players in terms of learning different schemes. And because when you do go on to the NFL, all those different things, you're creating a new offense every week. So we all had to adjust as coaches, as players, to the different situations that came about. And I think it was good practice for all of us as we all continue to ascend in our careers.
Yeah, and I'd be curious to get some more insight, from your perspective on where you're at right now with your role with this team, right? Because you're the wide receivers and tight ends coach. And like we talked about Week 1, you were helping calling plays, and what does the game day role look like for you, and how do you kind of assess where you're at with that right now?
Yeah, I would say me and Noel and obviously Coach Turner, JT, we all work together on various things in terms of situations, schematics, going into the game, during the game, and then obviously reviewing the game together and all those different things. So it's really been a combination of a lot of different roles that I've had. And it really just goes back to how things have been kind of unique this year. And I think it's a credit to obviously JT, Coach Turner, and Noel for everybody adjusting, and all of our other coaches. But it's been all over the place. I can tell you that. It's been all over the place.
I can imagine. Speaking of all over the place, I'm gonna put the mic all over to Thorne. I know he's got quite a few questions for you as well, as we're battling through today, TJ. We're supposed to have a couple more panelists on, but our guy Ref, who's usually the host, his power is out down in Houston. Our other co-host Zach, he's on a flight in the middle of who knows where right now. So
I had a power outage last night for 5 hours at where I'm staying, so that sucks.
Yeah, you gotta roll with the punches and just keep moving forward, which you're very familiar with down in Memphis.
Yes, we are.
But Thorne, take it away.
Yeah, so looking through your resume, trying to think of questions, I noticed something that I don't know if I've ever even heard of before, which is kind of how you got your start, which is, you were a student assistant at UConn and then became a player and walked on to the team. And you hear of guys in the reverse of he's a player, back end of the roster, comes a student assistant. But I feel like it never happens in reverse. And I was kind of curious what the story behind that was.
Yeah, so it actually happened the other way. But I went to it was not highly recruited out of high school, and I went to UConn as an equipment manager for the football team, and then I made the team, and all those different things. I unfortunately had a bunch of injuries, which really sucked because you travel all that distance to make the two deep, all those different things, get put on scholarship, all that stuff. So I had 3 bone fractures in 18 months, and one was a really freak shoulder injury, which really should have ended it for me. But I did come back from that, and then I became a student assistant once I was not cleared for my senior year. So I had 3 different roles there. I've had a lot of different roles in my football life. But I appreciate you, Thorne, doing the research there because no one really asked me that.
It's great. No, I mean, the equipment manager to wide receiver pipeline is pretty untapped, I think, in college sports. So, I think that's kind of interesting.
It's really crazy, too, that in my pro stops as a coach, I've had a teammate on every team. So when I was with the Calgary Stampeders in the CFL, I coached Hergy Mayala, who was literally one of my teammates who was a wideout with me. And then I go to the Breakers. Hergy came with me briefly before he was released. And then get to the Showboats. I got James Tunstall, who was with us briefly, and then Obi Melifonwu this year. So I've had a bunch of different teammates that have kind of seen my football life from that point to now. And I think it's really cool that those guys obviously get to see me grow, but I get to see them grow. I also forgot about Vontae Diggs when I was with the Breakers. We were teammates at UConn. I can't believe I forgot Vontae. Hard guy to forget.
I miss Vontae, man. He was such a joy to have in this league, and just always bringing the passion and the energy.
Vontae knows how to bring the heat, man. I'll tell you that. We've had plenty of battles in our days playing. So
Yeah, and also like there's a lot of UConn connections because Coach Horton also coached
Yes.
at UConn too. I know. I'm guessing those didn't ever overlap because I think he
Me-
was later.
yeah, me and Jaron did not overlap, but we have some mutual people. I think Jaron got there in 19 and I graduated fall of 18. So I think we just missed each other.
Yeah. You touched on another thing I wanted to ask about, which is that you've been a coach at the CFL as well as the UFL, which is kind of interesting because I wanted to get your thoughts on the differences of those leagues, kind of compare and contrast. Obviously, there's a huge like difference in you have player restrictions and obviously the rules are completely different. Any way you want to take it, I'm just kind of curious what
Yeah.
your perspective that is.
Yeah, the player pool in terms of talent is extremely relative. I would say very comparable. Like I could flip a coin and I wouldn't know which league is more or less competitive. They're both extremely competitive leagues with very talented players that at some point in time either progress to the NFL or work to progress to the NFL. So that's probably the first piece. The second piece that I would answer that with is obviously the rules in the CFL are extremely different. Really depends on what kind of offense you're trying to build in the CFL in terms of how you build your team. Now, one of the major rules, and I think probably one of the biggest differences, the line of scrimmage. You have a 1 yard advantage as an offense. So a defensive line has to align 1 yard past the LOS, which again, if you have great offensive linemen and a good running back, you can just run the ball every play. But you only have 3 downs, so you have to think about okay, we really have to push the ball downfield. So are your receivers going to be fast, twitchy possession guys, or are they going to be burners down the field? Like, those are all the different things you have to really think about. I think when you play 11 on 11, you kind of get a basketball team of guys. Okay, we have a jump ball guy. Okay, we have a shifty guy. We have a guy we can do a jet sweep with. So I think it's really all about how you structure your team. And obviously, I'm really biased because I'm an offensive guy. I gave you guys very offensive answers there, but the rules are very different. In the CFL, it's a really exciting, fun game. I loved coaching with the St. Peter's for 2 years. I coached running backs there, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. And you kind of talked about, NFL looks, and I was kind of curious if you could name, maybe 2, 3 players, offense or team as a whole. Who are you seeing right now as like, oh, that's a guy who has to be in a camp this fall?
You're asking about the showboats, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah, specifically.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of guys that are capable on our team of that because we have so many players that already have that experience. I'm not going to pinpoint just one guy, but I do believe that there are guys that are not only performing well in terms of the grade and all that, I guess their valuation, but statistically we have plenty of guys that are impressing. That's all sides of the ball and special teams.
Yeah, I'm doing my own kind of research into all that and trying to give guys grades. And I think, especially because you were there last year, I think it's better this year than it was last year as far as, guys who could potentially go to the next level. And I appreciate the cop-out answer of not, picking out guys there. So I won't.
I said it at the very beginning, fellas. So you know how I'm going to operate.
Yeah, but you also have
every person in this team is important, from our video guys, our equipment managers, and our trainers, everybody. And that's the most important thing in this thing. And I think, and you mentioned, and you kind of pulled my heartstrings there, Thorne, with just my experience, and those people are extremely important. So, and obviously our players, our coaches, everything. So I just want to emphasize that it's a collective effort with everybody.
Yeah, as a guy who was just finished being a student assistant and worked in like 2 different departments, I appreciate that. That gets me excited. I wanted to ask about a guy who's retired in the past year and now is taking on a coaching role in Lee Morris. I was kind of curious. I think he's a really interesting example of opportunity through the UFL where his coaching career kind of got a head start here with the showboats, and I'm kind of curious what the story behind that all was and how that's been going.
Yeah, and I always knew that Lee wanted to coach when he was done. That it was obviously a collective effort getting Lee here, but that was probably the first thing I thought about. Now, if somebody tells me they want to coach with somebody I played with or a friend, whatever, I kind of archive everybody's name on my contact list. So if the opportunity ever presents itself, hey, we could work together, or one person can help out the other, that you just kind of track those names. And Lee really stood out to me because of I was Lee's coach for 2 years. So when we were with the Breakers, he knew every receiver position. It was extremely impressive, especially in Coach Flip's terminology and everything. Really, really a lot to learn in that offense. Really impressive. Get to the Showboats, obviously year 2 with Coach Flip, the whole deal, and Lee still knowing every spot, all those different things. I mean, Lee was always prepared. Lee took really good care of his body, had great relationships with the people around him, and I was extremely impressed by that. I know I was not the only guy that was impressed with Lee's efforts, but I think we all kind of had a collective feeling that one day Lee would want to coach and that he'd be really good at it. And I appreciate Lee for everything that he's done for our team and everything as a player, as a coach. When I was doing personnel for Flip with the Breakers and the Showboats, Lee made my job really easy, because if we had a single hiccup or injury, Lee could go right in, and he scored touchdowns sometimes just off of subbing, and that was like huge for us. Obviously, getting a big play, manufacturing a big play, but also Lee kind of bailing us out if a guy got tired or got hurt, and those always stood out to me. That happened a few times.
All right, and then my last question here. I'm kind of curious. Obviously, we've talked a lot about, this being tumultuous and having a lot of moving parts with the Showboats. And I'm curious if there was any clear takeaways of, whether it's with the Showboats again next year, whatever your next opportunity here is after the season. What are the main takeaways of things that you've learned given, this season, with a lot of, things that you haven't had to do before necessarily?
Yeah, I think, and I wouldn't say it's something I necessarily learned this year. I would say, and the way that I'm going to answer this question is, it's something that I've always believed in, is structure will set you free. If you're structured, everyone knows kind of the plan, what's going on, players know, right, all those different things. I think that's what kind of propels any team forward. And obviously we've had a lot of remixes and different things, and we've all adjusted to that. We've found a way to do those different things and be structured and all that stuff. I mean, we never had a player late for a meeting. We didn't have any issues like that. Now we've fallen short on some games, but that's, at the end of the day, it's our job as coaches, as players, to deliver and have good performances. But in terms of the intangibles and having structure and all those different things will always be the number one thing that propels you going forward. And that's just something that I believe in. That's Showboats aside, futures aside of anybody, but if you have structure, you'll have a chance. And we've had a chance in every game this year.
Yeah, kind of speaking of that structure, TJ, I was curious to get your opinion on just some of the offensive struggles this year, to where obviously it's been, like we talked about, tumultuous season with coaching changes and quarterback changes, and the offense going through some ups and downs. And how have you kind of how to manage that, and what's kind of your assessment of how the offense is played, and maybe what things you want to see change and improve moving forward?
That's a tough question, James, just because I feel like we haven't really hit our stride as an offense. Now you start in training camp. Obviously, coach was a system, everything. I become the play caller, so I have some of my own wrinkles. Now, again, I was running Coach Wiz's system. We all were. We were operating under that. But again, there's different things you want to do as a play caller. Coach Wiz returns, so we kind of go back to kind of how we started. And then we get Noel, and obviously he has his own wrinkles and those different things. So we haven't really hit our stride. We haven't had like a 4-week sequential sequence of operating with the same terminology, all those different things. So I think that's an incomplete grade of how we're evaluated right now, just because of the rhythm that we haven't hit, just because of all the different changes that have occurred around us.
No, and that's completely fair. Especially, I'm assuming it's pretty frustrating being in those circumstances, especially seeing how well the defense has played throughout large chunks of the season, and having them been able to keep you in games, and then not being able to kind of hold up your side of the bargain offensively. And again, I'm not trying to say that the offense has been it's not. I'm not saying it's your fault, DJ. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that it's evident the offense has gone through some really tough times this season. which has been unfortunate to see because there is a lot of talent there. And speaking of that talent, working with Jonathan Adams for what is this your third straight season with him?
This
I
is
believe.
my third season with Jonathan Adams. Yes.
Having him on a roster, having some of these guys like David Davis is back in action. We've seen Kwame Lassiter make some plays. Those offense as a whole has really had a lot of depth. What have been some of your takeaways from some of these skill position players this year?
Yeah, I think all of them accepted the challenge in terms of the different things that we've all gone through this year. And I think that's the biggest thing that has really kept us in games is everyone's responding. Hey, one guy gets down, someone else is playing a different position. That can go for the O-line, the QBs, everybody. And I know the defensive side of the ball has had some injuries too, and guys are putting in different spots. But everyone's been ready to adjust, ready to work hard, and all those different things. And Jonathan Adams has been great. I've known him for 3 years now. He's been fantastic. I think he's sixth in yards right now. Not that that matters, but he's had a really good year. Daywood, obviously coming back from the injury, who I've worked with for 2 years, he's been fantastic. I know you mentioned Kwame as well. Kwame's been fantastic. All those guys have worked their tail off, and I highlight those wideouts just because I work with those guys every day. But it's a collective effort of everyone stepping up in different places all the time, and that's allowed us to be in close games. I think if you look at last year we really struggled with a lot of different things. Not that we haven't struggled this year, but the scores are a lot tighter, and it's coming down to the wire every time or going to overtime, all those different things. And we've responded in the most clutch situation that this league manufactures, which is overtime. And I think we're 4-6 in overtime, which just goes to a collective effort of our offense getting in the zone, hitting pay dirt, and our defense stopping people.
Jake, you've been kind of awfully quiet over there. Obviously, you're a Panthers guy.
No.
Do you have any words or anything for TJ?
Well, I have words, but I do have a question too. Well, not words like bad, because you guys have gifted us a couple wins, Panthers a couple wins this year, so thank you. But no, I wasn't gonna go there. But James,
I'll let that slide. I'll let that slide for right now.
Well, what I was gonna say is, it's a question. Like, there's been a lot of flack for the Memphis fan base and kind of not showing out. Do you feel like that's kind of a little bit unfair? Like, especially this past weekend, with the weather delay and the poor showing of the fans. Like, do you guys still feel the support from the fan base? Do you think that kind of undeserved flack criticism?
I think we appreciate any and all of our fans that we have that come out and show out, especially last week with the rain delay. I mean, it was really crazy weather, the whole deal. So, like, we put our fans first in our minds and in our hearts and all those different things. I mean, you can see the community outreach stuff we do every week when we get down to Memphis, whether it's Coach Turner or some of our players that we highlight in those events. So I think the Memphis community is really important to us, and we want to do well for them.
And I know James has kind of been putting it out there that, relocation and, all the misinformation there, but hopefully that's not the case, because I've liked the just throwing you under the bus. I know. I'm just throwing you under the bus. So hopefully, yeah, that Memphis returns, because I've, love the branding and all that. Obviously love the colors for unbiased reasons. But so, and hopefully you guys go out with a win this weekend. It would make me very happy with that. Potentially seeing Michigan clinching the first seed still, even though that won't, end up in a home, field advantage. But still, that coin flip.
Plan is to get a win, so I can tell you right now we're operating to get a win, as we have every week this year.
TJ, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Don't want to hold you too much longer. One final question I have for you, from your perspective, working with the wideouts, working with the tight ends, when you're trying to prepare these guys for game day, and there's a different quarterback almost every week, how much does that kind of affect how you operate?
I have said this from the moment I became a coach and really as a player. The quarterback in the game is irrelevant to the skill guys. You have to produce. You have to focus on the chemistry you have with that quarterback no matter what. And you have to execute your job. So obviously any quarterback in any system has a lot on their plate. I mean, every position does. But that is not an excuse to not go out, play hard, and produce, especially from the skill guy perspective, because they have to run a route, they have to adjust to a coverage, they have to perimeter block, all those different things, and that's what they can control, and that's their job.
Right on. TJ, we really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you again for taking the time. wishing the best of luck heading down the stretch of the rest of the season. Any final comments for the Showboats and Showboats fans as we send you off into the horizon?
Nothing. Thank you guys very much for having me on the show. I know we wanted to do this earlier in the year, and I apologize that it came down to week 10, but it was very important for me to be on the show. And obviously, James, and I haven't met some of you guys, but James, I really appreciate it, and using your platform to highlight the league in a positive way. So thank you.
Absolutely. That's why we do it. TJ, thanks again, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Go Boats.
Well, we got a little surprise guest on the show here out of nowhere. Freddie goes by. Freddie, what in the heck should I even call you? Like, I know a lot of people know you in the Discord as Freddie Airmail. Like, what?
Yeah, that works.
What are we calling you here? Freddie Airmail?
Call me Freddie.
If I'm roster boy, he should be quarterback list guy or something. I don't know.
That works too. or Notre Dame guy.
Freddie, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Little surprise here as we're short on panelists. So Freddie, if you guys don't know, Freddie's been kind of behind the scenes working with PFN for a while, helps out with some things. I know you're a big arena guy and just kind of all things off football. How's it going, man?
It's going all right. Yeah, I'm happy to show up on short notice. You don't have Ducky here, so I guess it's appropriate that the backup to your Ohio State guy would be Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. No, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Trading one rival for another.
There you go. I have, I think, one article up on the PFN website, and it's at least a year old now, and it's about fan-controlled football. For anyone who remembers
that age well.
How many downs have they played in the interim there?
It's been over 1,000 days since the last game.
Oh man, I didn't realize it's been that long.
I also have as many days since Ohio State's beat Michigan.
That's been longer, I think. But yeah, I mean, I had a ticker in one of my spreadsheets, which, as Nick is alluding to, I have plenty of spreadsheets for all things arena football, UFL, CFL, ELF.
I do actually have a question for you now.
Sure.
Because we were talking about it earlier with Mike DeLeo, and he's someone that wasn't on my radar, but everyone's on your radar. So kind of give me the background on him in general. Were you surprised by, the performance? Was he better than expected? Kind of what was your view on it all?
I didn't get to tune in too much for this week of UFL, so I can't speak
to that too much.
Stick
to the background, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's been around a few places. I think he was at Florida Tech to start, which is a D2 school that doesn't have a football program anymore. I think they dropped theirs.
That's insane.
In 2020 when, stuff was going down for everyone, and he transferred, I think, to Middle Tennessee first, and then didn't get too much time there. Landed at Austin P, which is where he was a star for a couple years, I think, and was a decent dual threat. And
we got my burner in the comments still. Of course, Ducky's in the comments, but isn't actually joining us on the show tonight. That's pretty sad.
Well.
He's like half the comments.
And he said he didn't have time for the show tonight. What is this garbage?
Yikes.
Unbelievable.
All right. I mean, like, what else? We haven't really talked much about the St. Louis-San Antonio game. I guess, James, do you have any major takeaways from that? Obviously, Friday night game. St. Louis rolled.
My biggest takeaway is that I thought Kellen Mond looked really good in the first half. I think he made really good decisions. He was quick getting the football out of his hands, threw a couple beautiful touchdown passes that got dropped. So, I mean, obviously his stat line doesn't look all that impressive, but I thought he played better than what that stat line reflects. I also still think that it's a bit of a shame that he got benched in the middle of the season. I like Kevin Hogan. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks on that roster, but also at the same time, once you're eliminated, I don't see why they still stuck with him for a couple of weeks. knowing that Kevin Hogan's a 32-year-old quarterback, he's obviously not the future of the franchise. Really should have given the keys back to either Mond or even give Jarrett Garantano a shot. I know some people aren't huge fans of him, but, like, you know, give your younger guys on the roster a shot, see what they can do, at least see if they can develop for a couple of weeks. Kind of what Memphis did with Dresser Wynn, you know, letting him start for a couple of weeks, and he'll get to start again this weekend. So that was my biggest takeaway. On St. Louis's side of things, I mean, they're just a good football team. Max Duggan looked good. I guess the only concern I have for St. Louis is that, you know, phenomenal offensive performance, but we got to remember who they're going up against, and that was San Antonio's defense, which is statistically the worst defense in the league in pretty much every single category. Might be one of the worst defenses we've seen in spring football in general. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen this major of a fall off. When you look at what Will Reed's unit did a season ago compared to now, it's brutal. So, yeah, I mean, Kellen Mond, his stock's going up. St. Louis's offense, his stock is going up. Max Duggan, he actually threw the ball, but again, it's like, okay, Duggan, he made some steps forward, but let's see him do that against the Stallions defense or the Panthers defense or even the Defenders defense, right? Like, let's see him do that against one of those better defenses because San Antonio is brutal.
Yeah, I generally agree. San Antonio was really, you know, Kellen Mond has just not really worked out for them. And obviously he took some strides in the right direction, but the second he's been kind of iffy all season, their whole plan kind of goes up in flames because it was completely centered around Kellen Mond being one of the best quarterbacks and being a very good distributor of the ball and getting it out, because that's kind of what their offense is, right? You know, for all the jokes, that's what made Chase Garbers so good last year to make, you know, to make them one of the better teams last year, and even Quentin Dormady to a lesser extent. It was like, hey, we've got good weapons, we just need to get them the ball, and it hasn't really worked out that way. Also, some of the receivers have had some regression on top of that too, which has not helped at all. But, you know, some steps in the right direction. Right now for San Antonio, the thing that kind of sucks is that you want to go, okay, who, you know, now it's time to, like, get some looks on some guys that could potentially be pieces in the future. But that quarterback room doesn't really have anyone that's like a future piece of, like, hey, a younger guy that could maybe, you know, be a backup or fight for a roster spot next year. They don't really have that. They just added Alan Bowman, who would be kind of that, but he's not going to play this week. I mean, he's barely been there. So Kellen Mond makes the
That would be
most
so
amount of
funny if they
sense.
put him in, though. Like,
I mean, like, at what's the worst that happens?
what is there to
you know?
lose at this point, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
there's nothing. Yeah, Garantano, sure. Like, I wouldn't hate it. Just to see what he's got, give him a full game, whatever. Oh, there we go. Jace, what's the background this week?
Like a little Tokyo vibes. I'm just out getting some ramen.
Hell yeah. What's up, Jace?
My God.
I wasn't
up?
sure if you'd still join us tonight.
Well, I wasn't, but then I saw Thorin and Jake, and now Freddie, so I was like, yeah, I gotta join.
Yeah. It at least makes it up a little bit, you know. I'm only 1/5 of the panel now, so it's not.
Yeah, well, yeah, because that's what it. Yeah, there's three. Because yeah, however many Michigan fans are on the panel plus you. So
So 3 total.
3, yeah.
3?
Zach, me, you.
Oh, I thought we
He's
were
not
talking
on
about tonight.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, last time
Yeah.
I checked,
Oh,
Freddie's
yeah,
not
not
a
to-
Michigan fan.
No.
Yeah, I immediately saw Freddie join, and I immediately got my feelings hurt because I thought of Week 1 college football last year when A&M, we couldn't. I don't even know what our offense was doing, but that was just a painful game to watch. I was there. I thought we were gonna win.
I mean, at least you didn't lose to NIU the next week. So
That is true. That is true. To make up for it, I hit a crazy live bet on that game. I took them at like +9. I put 100 on it. They were like +900. They were up at half. I was like, why not? Let's just see what happens. It worked out.
we
Speaking of NIU, we got Rocky Lombardi will get some snaps this upcoming game for Michigan, so that'll be interesting to watch.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all I've been waiting on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I've been
you
dying to
gotta
see it
keep an
since
eye on
week
Lombardi
1.
for the playoffs, Chase.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be. I'm just saying, with that name, you got to go for like first play's got to be a bomb shot, right? Like you don't hand it off named Rocky.
Play action deep post.
3rd and 26.
Oof.
You got any familiarity with 3rd and 26 this week?
3rd and 26 and 24. I didn't even realize it was that. I said we had 2 3 and 20s. But that's like
the 3rd and 26 was what the first one, and then it was the 3rd and 24. And when this 3rd and 24, it which ended up being Cade's insane catch. I'm just like, they're gonna convert this. I had no faith at that point, and then it was brutal.
I looked at Dion on the sideline because Dion was like, we need to run. I can't remember what play he said we should have run. I looked at him. I said, it's 3rd and 26. We're about to just run a little screen. You know what I'm saying? Just so we don't turn it over and just punt it. Then I see the ball going there. I'm saying, oh my God. I said, wait, he might catch that. And then, it worked out. I was like, I feel like we always convert long 3rd downs, but we like 3rd and 1, no chance. I'm not doing it. But 3rd and 30,
you look at
something will
11.
happen.
You were 11 for 13 on 3rd downs, but like pretty much every single one was like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 26. Like they were all third. But like,
I don't want to brag about that or acknowledge that because like the odds of that happening are again like I don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
Like that's not like a fun thing to
but
be
it
a
is
part
like a
of.
Birmingham thing to convert on those 3rd down longs and 4th down longs. Like we saw last week against St. Louis, Jordan Thomas with that ridiculous 4th and 11 catch to keep that drive alive. Like it's just, you guys just find a, especially with Jamar, like he just finds a way to.
Just knowing the system, that's where his knowledge comes into play because it's like 3rd and 26, worst case scenario, like we do have a deep shot available, so it's like if you have a guy who knows the system and knows that there's a guy there, it's like it obviously puts you in a good situation. I feel like last year the roles were kind of reversed for us on defense, at least in the middle half of the year. But like 3rd and 1, there was no chance you were going to convert it against our defense. But like 3rd and 15, 3rd and 17, it would always be they would make some crazy catch, kind of like the catch that I don't want to disrespect him and say his name wrong. Who's the receiver for Michigan, number 7?
Jalen Moore.
Moore.
He had he had a crazy catch on the 1 yard line. Like, that was very difficult. It was good coverage, but like it was one of those where you're like, damn, he gets paid too. You know what I'm saying, to play. So
that was a hell of a throw too by Etling.
No, it was.
Yeah, good placement.
The ball placement was like insane. I don't know how I fit into that window. That was.
I'm trying to stay focused. My phone keeps going off with text from Davey, so it's like I have no idea what he's saying. I hope he's not saying anything crazy in the comments, but I can't check it because it like disconnects me. So I just got to go with leap of faith.
Let's pull up the comment feed.
Yeah, the last thing he said is that give you and Freddie a show.
Guy knows ball. That's it. That's all it is.
College football show.
Jace, when you heard that Jamar was coming back a few weeks ago, right, to be QB3, probably for like a week or so, emergency guy, did you have any thought in the back of your mind that you would probably be rolling into the playoffs, at least with the thought of him potentially being the starter after throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game?
If you would have asked me this in the beginning of the season, I would be like, definitely no, because he's retired. He doesn't want to play anymore, and like whatever reason it just didn't work out. But the way the season has been going, it's like I still think there's a possibility Skip might finish at quarterback at some point this year. Like there's just no telling like how this year's going, who's going to be in there. Like I'm just delusional, I know, but like there's been times where I'm like, what if our emergency quarterback gets hurt? Who would go in there, and how would we be able to function it? Because I'm like, Dion swears that he plays quarterback in high school, which I think he did, but he thinks that he would be able to run our offense. I'm like, there is no, like, you would only know how to throw to the receivers. Like, you don't know anything backfield. You don't know handoffs. And like, but I was sitting there thinking one night, I'm like, how would we do that? Like, how much would we be able, like, would we be able to get a first down? Like, how far could we go? And just hypothetical, because I really don't, like, at this point, there's no telling what could happen. But yeah, I think Jamar's handled it awesome. Like he's been incredible every week. I think he's getting better and just getting more comfortable, just getting back into being in game shape. And like I said, I'm happy for him. I think that's like the true, like that's a perfect example of like resilience and just trusting the process and working on. You know, it's easy to work out when you're signed to a team and everything's going good, but when essentially nobody wants you and you're at home and you're doing what you got to do to provide for your family, it's like the fact that you're able to just to come in at a drop of a hat and now you're throwing for 300 yards and putting up points. It's like, I don't want to say our offense has turned the corner, but it's like we've kind of been scoring. Like it looks like things are flowing a little bit better the past 3 weeks, and it's just like
No doubt.
maybe we just needed someone to come in there and say, you know, screw it, I might throw 100 interceptions, but like I'm gonna throw 101 touchdowns, and like the touchdowns are gonna be.
Deion's down there somewhere.
Yeah, the touchdowns are gonna be awesome.
we don't even have Ducky for the for the bleep. Dang it.
The Jameis Winston experience.
Exactly. It's like you're just giving guys. I mean, but at the end of the day, I feel like this is a receiver's dream because every time you're playing in a game and the offense isn't going, what a receiver wants to say, just throw me the ball. Just I'm open. I'm deep. Just throw it deep. I'm open. And it's like now I feel like we're kind of doing that. Like whether it's camp on the 3rd and 26, or we've thrown plenty of deep balls to Deion, so everybody knows Deion. Cade he's been. I don't want to jinx him, but like I feel like he's probably our most efficient player. Like every time he touches the ball, it's an explosive player and a touchdown. So it's like guys are given the opportunity to make plays, and Jordan Thomas 4th and 11. Like it's just, I don't know. It's just like you're getting your opportunities now, and it's like maybe we just needed someone to come in there, and this is what needed to be done.
I think
what's wild, since you mentioned resilience. If you want to talk resilience, this is what, year 4 of the Stallions? Like,
yes.
Across both leagues. I'm pretty sure in all of the first 3 seasons, the guy who was QB1 to start the season wasn't the guy at the end of the season when you won a title. And
yeah,
I think it's
correct.
been due to injury all those times. And so
that is true.
If you guys got a ring this year, that's the most adversity, I think, in that regard thus far.
I don't want to look ahead by any means because it's like so much. Again, I keep saying it every week I'm on here. So much can change in a week with injuries and who knows. But it's like I do feel like if we do, you know, if we achieve our goals and win what we want to win, this is by far this will be the biggest accomplishment I think in our 4 years of just being a part of the spring league and doing it. Just because of, again, everybody faces adversities, and I think ours is just a little more publicized because it's the quarterback position. I know there's other teams who are getting hurt, getting guys on IR every week, and that's not ideal. But this would just be the most. I think this one would mean the most to everybody.
Something I wanted to point out, because I noticed this recently with Jamar, which just, I think it goes to show that, like, hey, there hasn't been much consistency, obviously, with Birmingham, but across the league, is that there's a very easy chance where Jamar, assuming, obviously, we don't know how you guys are going to handle it, I'm not going to ask about if he's going to play the whole game or not or whatever, but there's a universe where he's top 5 in passing yards at the end of the year, despite not being on a team for, like, what, the first 6 weeks? So, you know, it's
that's what I'm saying.
Just a weird year, you know, with a lot of those sorts of things.
I don't even think we give out the award, but it's like, I get it. It's only, you know how the NBA, you have to play like a certain amount of games to get considered, but it's like, there's no way if we had the award that Jamar wouldn't win Comeback Player of the Year, right?
Yeah. Who else would it even be?
It's funny because Birmingham consistently could win that award. Like last year, Marlon Williams, for sure. Like if that award existed, like he would be the guy that would have won it. So this year, Jamar.
Agreed.
Maybe we'll just have to do like a PFN Comeback Player of the Year, just so something's out there.
I think Ginda could have been in the conversation if he didn't get hurt again, because he was leading the lead in tackles before he got hurt, so he would have been another name to throw in there. But yeah, there's been a few guys, and Jamar definitely towards that top of the list, if not the top of the list, to win that for sure.
That's true. Yeah. Frank is. I just. It's crazy to even say comeback for him, just because he's always so consistent. But I forgot he got hurt last year, because it's like, yeah.
David Bastista, your buddy David. I don't even know how to say his last name, but
Bastida holding onto the ball.
How about worry about holding onto the ball?
Yeah, you should ask to see I'll send you some clips of the blocking. Maybe we can show the show next week for a treat. Uh, when he was with me in Green Bay, we would do just some drill work in the backyard, just work on my craft, and we did some blocking drills where he was holding a pillow as a shield, and we can see how that resulted for him.
You're gonna have to send. Yeah, we can have a week 10, maybe after dark.
Something like that.
That'd be hilarious.
One thing I did want to say that I noticed Thorne was talking about. I think I forgot who he was arguing with or debating about who is wide receiver 1 right now in the league, which also my boy T Vaughn is going absolutely crazy right now. He's crushing it. Again, I think he's one of the most consistent receivers I've been around. It's like every game, he's going to make one crazy one-handed catch. He's going to break a couple. He's never going to go down on the first tackle. Like he's just so no shade to anybody else, but we were talking about number 4 for Michigan and Deion Kane and like the numbers and who's the more dominant receiver. And it's like, again, not knocking anybody, but I do want people to remember that Deion did miss a game due to pregnancy, due to having a baby.
Was that on the injury report?
What?
I didn't realize Deion had a baby at the beginning of the season. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, due to being there for the pregnancy, not having a baby. Yeah, so it's like,
I know Ducky's making the Photoshop right now of Deion with a baby bump.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah. No. But you know what I'm saying.
No, that is fair. I think it's an interesting year for receivers because there isn't like a lot of these seasons, if you like look back statistically or whatever, there's one that's like obviously the guy. And this year, obviously, Deion's obviously in the conversation, but there's a lot of guys. I think you could argue like between 5 or 6 of them that have like at least some argument to being the wide receiver 1 in the league. I don't even know if it's you're gonna have your opinions. I don't even know if it's really that important of a distinction. Obviously, egos and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of guys that have been like really consistent, but not anyone who's like clearly been above. Obviously, COC Mariners leading the league in receiving right now. Deion Kane has the big plays and certainly kind of almost the Hakeem Butler last year where like it felt like, and even this year with Hakeem Butler, doesn't have the stats, but like that kind of big playability more than anyone else. Cornell Powell has the touchdowns. So, I think all of them are legitimate. I think the thing you're talking about was in PFN. We were discussing like, hey, is Deion Kane like an MVP level guy? Which I don't know if I'm going to go that far with, but I think for me, I think Deion's been one of the players, especially last year. He had some issues with drops. He's been dynamite this year. He's been like, I don't even know if he has a drop on the entire season. I think he's been so much better than I thought he was going to be, and I already thought he was a decent receiver.
I think it's just we're feeding him right now, which we need to. But to me, just watching it in person, like I said, we've been roommates the past 2 years, so like I feel like I'm around him a good amount. Watching him last week against Michigan, it was just kind of like the numbers weren't nothing crazy compared to what he's put up, but it was like that catch he made on the corner route when he drew the PI, and then the curl route that he caught, or it was supposed we miscommunicated. That's what's crazy. We scored on a busted play. Like it was the right route, but it was supposed to be short. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Like him just catching the ball on the 10, like I paused that, and there was 3 guys around him, and I'm like, that's one of those like, this dude ended up scoring this play. Like, just seeing that in person, it was just like you're watching him, like his confidence and everything. It's just like he's like taking over games now, and at certain when he gets the ball in his hand, and it's like, yeah, I'm just happy for him because it's like I just hope he gets another opportunity to prove himself in the league. But yeah, it's been good to watch him perform the way he is.
It is kind of interesting that he feels like this year it's a different level. Like he's always been the guy who's like the uber talented. It's always like been there, but like you're seeing like, hey, there's no drops, there's no like mistakes anymore. Like he seems to have like figured out the UFL level completely at this point. And obviously you mentioned, missing a game's going to hurt his stats a little bit. But like, yeah, I mean, he's been up there with the best of them in the league. And I think certainly as like a vertical threat, no one's been as good as he has. Like, I think he's been absolutely the best.
He's a lot faster than what people think because how he kind of shows it on tape sometimes, getting in and out of routes. But it's like whenever he takes off, it's like you're not catching him.
Yeah.
But enough about him. I don't want him to hear me talking this good about him.
Jace, one of these days, kind of like how Aaron Rodgers did that one time where Devontae Adams just peeked out behind him on the show. You got to do that with Dion in one of these episodes. Just have
I'll get Dion to make an appearance.
Just randomly, just like pop up behind you.
No, I'll get him to make it in the. I'll get him in the background of this. We'll set the mood.
Oh yeah. Well, guys, I don't know. Are there any other major takeaways? I know we didn't cover power rankings yet, but also like there's really not many changes on that end because it's week 9 and the teams that we figured would win won.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to put the asterisk.
I know exactly where he's going with this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
That's all you gotta
Jace knows what's up. I mean, Jace, it's not like you guys have lost any quarterbacks this year or anything, right?
No, but I'm also just trolling. Like I'm not diminishing his abilities by any means, or being a game changer, or like someone made a good point about the being on the 10-yard line. Like what would have Bryce done on the 10? So it's like you make valid points. But my only thing is like I don't know what. Like I thought Danny did good because it's like
Danny played well.
They scored on most possessions. I feel like that they had the ball. That they had that one drive that was the craziest thing to me is because I was gonna rebuttal with you on Twitter, Jake, but then I went and looked the stats up and it said that we had the ball more, and I was like, we had 3 drives in the first half. I was like, how did we have more time of possession? Because as a player, it felt like you guys had the ball the whole time, but obviously I was wrong. That shows how much I pay attention during the game. But the first half, anyways, the first half was like it felt like it was 30 minutes. Like we were all like that was the fastest half of football we've ever played.
Yeah, that one quick, and I think at that point Michigan did have the better time of possession, but it did kind of flip in the second half. Of course, getting 11 of 13 third down conversions certainly helps. For me, I kind of knew that Michigan was going to lose when they went up 16-13. They could not, couldn't convert and get a touchdown on that drive and had to settle for 3. And like I said, yeah, Michigan went up 16-13, but the way that you guys were rolling, like I knew that was like needed to get 6 there. Absolutely would have changed that game, and then that last drive would have been able to settle for a field goal if all else changed, and would have at the very least sent you into overtime. So that was my thing. Like I knew that drive, the way that you guys were playing and not getting in Michigan, not stopping you on third, I knew that like they had to get touchdown there.
It's crazy because, I mean, I'm sure it's probably done this every week in the UFL, but it's like, as more crucial as these games get, these extra point conversions, not being able to kick the extra point is such a big deal at this point of the year because, I mean, I think we were 1 for 4 on extra points or 2 for 4 on extra points. Like Michigan, I think was 3 for 4, and it's just like, we get one of our 2 points, we're up 6. We don't get one of them, we're only up 1. He makes the field goal, he's up 1. And first off, I didn't know you could return I knew you could return an interception. I didn't know you could return an extra point conversion until I saw Houston do that. Because I'm not joking. When Jamar threw that pick on the extra point, and like we were all like, "Oh, he can't return it anyways." Like I did not know you could score an extra point. The defense could score an extra points.
Yeah, I think you get the same amount of points that the scoring team goes for. So 1 would return for 1, 2 for 2, and then 3 for 3. Right, James? I think that's.
I think they're all 2, because last year St. Louis returned a 1-point conversion for. Wait, you know what?
Was that 1 point?
I think
I think you're right.
At least at one point it was that. It might have been like XFL and they shifted it. Like that's something.
No,
they
you know what? No, you're right. Because Keelan Kennedy had a pick 6 on a. It was week 9 against Arlington, and I believe it was 1 point. So you're right. You're right. That is how that works.
Okay, yes,
Ducky, what's your thoughts?
I just joined to say that Michigan sucks.
Jace can't show any reaction to that.
Yeah, he's disagreeing with me, shaking his head no. He's like, no, they're the best team in the league right now.
No, I'm worried about the team that beat us last time we played them. I got my plate full this week.
Memphis should be interesting. Got Dresser Win back in there, so.
What I'm saying, Dresser Win back there.
Jaron Horton's defense.
You heard Coach TJ. They're in every game.
Yeah. No, Memphis is a good team. I mean, it's just I don't. Last year, in my opinion, Memphis it was just a lack of talent. Oh no, he doesn't want to hear my Memphis talk. Oh well. Last year, Memphis was more of a lack of talent. This year, I don't think. Jim Manos has done a really good job putting that roster together. It's more so just a lack of execution, and like we talked about, just insane stuff behind the scenes. Some of which is not public, but maybe one day it will be.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, you're back from Tokyo?
You see what happens whenever you start. My phone just predicts when you're about to say something crazy, and it just starts disconnecting me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just said that Memphis was gonna wipe the table with you guys. So, what's your response to that?
I'm not saying nothing because last time I said something about the Showboats preseason about getting them in the win column, we were their first one. So I'm not saying nothing. I've learned my lesson. I'm not saying nothing.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think you have any former teammates on the Showboats anymore. I know you did for like a little while there, but
I actually do. If you want to be serious, I played at KU with Kwame Lassiter.
Okay. Well, there we go. I was thinking like spring ball teammates, but yeah.
And Deneric Prince, Texas A&M. And Jim Turner, Texas A&M.
Yeah, Jim was your guy there. Why is everybody so awkwardly quiet? I don't like this.
I'm just waiting for somebody
this weekend.
I'm just waiting for somebody to start bringing up Memphis so I can say they suck.
Memphis.
Their offense.
Memphis.
I'm a big Memphis fan this weekend.
Dude, Memphis defense is like the real deal. It's just their offense. It's like, I'm pretty sure I could do better. And I'm 5'5". That's
3 inches taller than Davey.
Oh, no. Also, somebody asked in the chat earlier. I forget who it was. It might have been Michigan Panther Pride. They asked me who I hated more, St. Louis or Michigan. And I'll put it to you this way. If it's St. Louis versus Michigan. Oh, Birmingham's.
I don't say that's an easy question.
Yeah, that's an easy question. I thought it was St. Louis, Michigan. I'll put it this way. If St. Louis and Michigan play each other, I'll let you know who I'm rooting for on Twitter. And it won't be the person you expect. Where'd everybody go in the chat? I left. Now it's Chris Mason. Shout out Chris. The rest of you are haters.
Hey. This is why we need Ref and Zach back, because like I've just run out of teams to host.
Yeah, it's they're good at like
your article time.
Yeah, they're good at like the dead air stuff. Like they don't want to like just jump right in and do something.
They know how to
I've talked about multiple teams tonight, Jace.
Yeah, but your heart's only win with one team. We know.
Where's Jace?
But I've hardly even talked about Michigan.
There he is.
No.
Oh, I couldn't see Jace.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can see you.
I just now I could just see you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've been seeing you the whole time. I thought we were just playing it cool, acting like we don't talk.
All right, I'm going. I gotta give Birmingham their flowers though this week. Everybody else agreed with me that we had to bump you guys back up to number 1.
I mean, I've had them at number 1 for the past 3 weeks.
What's crazy? You can ask James when he texted me to get on about the show. He was like, I can't wait to see you and Jake go back and forth. And I was like, I never go back and forth with Jake. I said he's realistic. Like we don't ever. Like, we usually agree on things. We know what it is.
Yeah, it's
Good or
frustrating
bad.
for me. I'd like to be able to just talk a lot of crap and then be right, but I know better by now. Like I've learned my lesson. Too many years.
He's not a homer.
And I'm on the end where it's like the same situation almost. I've just been on the right side of the coin toss because it's like it's not like I want to get down 18-3 again in the championship game and like have to do a crazy comeback. Like I don't want to sign up for any of that. So I'm just grateful to play him again.
DC at 4 is interesting to see them how they've dropped, but that defense, I'm not confident in at all right now.
Thorne
Michigan's
can
defense
talk about
is
it.
also
Was
problematic, but
yeah, at least there's some
a bit. I don't know.
coming back.
What were you saying, Jake?
Well, I think. Yeah. Well, I know, like Jace was saying, if Perkins was playing defense, but no, but in serious, like I was saying, like I think that if Perkins is able to keep the offense on the field a little bit longer, that'll help the defense, and then getting Javin back will certainly help. But there's definitely some things that Birmingham really exposed, especially on third down, that need to be fixed, and who knows if that'll be the case in a week and a half. But
Ducky putting Memphis over Arlington after the Renegades torched them on the road is crazy.
My rankings are probably the most realistic. Like everybody's like, "Oh, Michigan at 5," and it's like, dude, they're one player away from being like garbage.
You're forgetting that Michigan toasted Houston with Danny Etling at quarterback.
Yeah, after they already clinched. Nobody cared
No,
about
they
that game.
hadn't.
They didn't clinch at that point.
Nobody cared about that game. It was Houston was already out. They're not going to risk all their players. Some of them are going to the NFL. You know how it is.
One thing, once we're talking about clinching and all that stuff, one thing that like it doesn't make sense, because I do check the lines every week just because I just need any motivation I can get, like if we're the underdogs or how many points or who's favorited where. The one line that doesn't make sense to me this week, unless they know something that I don't, is why is Michigan, and I'm not hating on Michigan, but I'm just like, why are they minus 10 against Houston right now? Like, Houston looked good. I get it. DC didn't care. Like Thorne said, like they already won and everything. Like they're clinched. But like, Houston's like, if McClendon's balling, like they're good.
Yeah.
And like if they play inspired, like they're a good team. I'm not saying Michigan's not going to beat them because they will, but it's like
Michigan should be like a 2.5 point favorite, not 10.
Yeah, when I saw that on Fox too, looking at the roster and like 9.5 point favorites, I'm like, that seems a bit high.
Especially if Coach Nolan's talking about Rocky's playing, which is no offense to Rocky, but it's like that's not easy just to get thrown in there and just win by double digits. Like when the lines opened when we played Memphis, we were minus 9.5. So I'm just like, damn, like. Is Houston not trying? Like, are they not playing this week? I was just like, I still think Michigan's gonna win, but I was just like, damn, like that's pretty high to me.
I just pulled up my spreadsheet with my computer ratings, and I have, what was it? I have Michigan by 8.5, and that's not taking into account like any roster switch ups like Rocky playing, but
yeah, I think that's what they did. I don't think the people who set the lines for the UFL, honestly, that much of an insider. I've noticed a lot of times where they're kind of late to make moves on stuff.
Well, a lot of that also has to do with the bettors too, where the money's going.
Yeah, I've got Houston winning by 10.
I think there's a chance. I mean,
I'm not gonna cry about it. Like I just want to go and watch a game that I'm not gonna be stressed about win or lose until the next week, and then get to sit on my couch and be annoyed at hopefully
Come
not
down to
Birmingham.
I
need to, but I don't know if I'll be able to swing it.
Jake, you should come down with me, man.
Yeah,
I'll get myself in trouble. I'll get yelled at.
Oh, boo-hoo.
No. I mean, what's the worst? You already got James stealing freaking Bryce Perkins' jockstrap off the sidelines.
I thought you were gonna
That
say
wasn't supposed
stealing
to get
James.
out
I
until
thought you were
after
gonna,
the season, guys. Jeez.
I thought you were talking about the other James getting something stolen.
Yeah.
His
I was like,
tires.
damn, that's
Oh my
cold.
gosh. That's
Well,
Dallas,
messed
dude.
up.
No, but James Baker would for sure buy Bryce Perkins' jock strap if
Dude.
he saw it on eBay.
There'd be a bidding war between Buckeye
He would
Mike
be bidding on
and
that.
James. And probably you.
Just don't tell Buckeye Mike. Oh, goodness. All right, guys. I don't know if there's much else for us to really cover. Does anyone else have any final parting words before we...
Michigan sucks.
Shout out to me and Ducky being the only two to have Houston in the top half of our ballot.
And
Wait,
not
where'd you
even
have
rough.
Houston?
Shout
I
out
had
to
Houston at
Freddie and
4.
Ducky. That's
I
all I
had them
gotta
ahead of
say.
DC.
Oh.
I actually put DC higher on my ballot than they are in my computer ratings.
Why do you think that is? Just because I'm curious. What's their issue?
I'm guessing. I mean, it's so for one thing, the ratings are weighted more towards recent results, and DC's kind of been trending down more so than how other teams have been, and I think it's just it's if it's not losing, it's close wins, and sometimes it's
the BCS
against
model.
all right teams. Yeah, I mean it's my system is based on one of those computers that was used in the BCS, the Sagarin model. It's pretty easy.
Can I ask what does it have us at?
Nine.
It has
Does it match
Unless
what
it's
you
gonna
put?
hurt unless it's gonna hurt my feelings.
No, I mean it's
Wait,
gonna motivate.
9?
I
How are Tampa Bay? Why are they ahead of you guys?
mean it's close, but you're at 3.
Got it.
For
Who's
now.
who's at 1?
Michigan's 1. St. Louis is 2, but it's
I'm
like
outta
a
here.
0.3
Don't invite me back.
point difference. Depending on
What
it
the
can
hell?
very easily move around, depending on how this week goes.
What is up with these Canadian super chats? They get wilder and wilder every week.
I think that might be your real burner.
Yeah, Tommy Tornado. On that note, we lost Ducky.
He said he
All right, Ref, I don't know
offended
where
him.
you are, but if you can put an end to this live stream, that'd be pretty phenomenal. Guys, you know the drill. Follow us on Twitter or /X at Around the UFL. Make sure you're subscribed to Pro Football Newsroom, the UFL podcast here on YouTube. Don't want to miss any of these lives, and I promise next week will be better, and I know it will be better because I won't be hosting. So you can look forward to that and have a much better, more smooth, just all-around better show. So tune into that, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.